The Dune MMO, it's like Rust, but instead of getting shot with a old rusty nail and getting tetanus and dying, you instead get killed by humans whose job in life is to act like computers. Trust me, it makes sense. Trust me, it makes sense.
As some of you likely know by now, I have a problem. I am unreasonably excited for the upcoming open world survival MMO Dune Awakening. Been talking about this game for well over a year now, and as we continue to inch closer to its release, my excitement has just been growing. Yes, I know the game is going to have issues, chief amongst those being the rather janky looking combat, and what I'm expecting.
Oh yeah. I don't know. We have checked this out quite a bit previously on this channel, and yes, the combat seems so unappealing, okay? Every time you have to swing a hammer or a sword, vibro sword, I guess, like a dildo, but it vibrates. Trust me, it makes sense. You know, things like that. It just looks painful. The abilities look painful, but the good part, it's just animation, so technically should be easy to fix. Technically, I think.
To be poor performance, most likely, be that client side or server side, either or really, or maybe both, who knows. Despite those things, I'm still pumped to play the game. In fact, the more I see, the more I'm looking forward to it. There is a lot here that
Yep, you're actually gonna have sandworms and watch this hovering.
I like. No, it won't be perfect, but I'm expecting to have quite a lot of fun regardless, and that's why I play video games. After all, if I'm having fun, I'm happy. All right, so just the other day, Funcom held a massive 2-hour live stream. This thing was a honker with loads of new information, gameplay, and some interesting things both shown and discussed. This was the biggest reveal that they've done to date, and there's quite a lot here, so let's dive in. After a bit of an introduction and showcasing some previously released trailers, they then kicked things off with a live gameplay session where a host...
Those flying things are called ornithopters or something like that, I guess. They don't use typical propellers like other things because, reasons.
Joined by 2 developers, the world director and environmental artist, talked through most of the experience, kind of detailing and sharing some information. Now, one of the first topics that they addressed here was the setting, the fact that this is set in the desert, and how they are managing to try to make that less boring and be more than just like walking through vast swaths of sand and trying.
Sandworms! That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Big sandworms, spice fields, and things like that. Drugs are cool at the end of the day. Big true.
To keep exploration interesting. So the main takeaway here is they really focus on verticality as well as having lots of interesting vistas and points of interest, and that is in addition to having different varied areas, namely the testing stations and other points of interest that are going to help mix up the visual variety as well. We're going to see some more examples of that shortly here. While exploring, they pointed out that while you scout with binoculars, it's actually going to automatically add any points of interest that you scan right onto your map as well as onto the compass at the top of the UI. Plus, they mentioned the fact that you can place down your own custom markers. If you happen to come across, say, like a hidden treasure chest, you can mark it there for future reference as well. Now, next, they walked up to a trading post, the one that they previously scouted out. Now, we have seen these trading posts in prior gameplay reveals. They are relatively small locations in which you're going to find various NPCs you can buy and sell things from. You can pick up new quests.
Looks good. Looks good.
Specifically, these are called contracts, and they function sort of like area bounties or quest within a region where you have to complete some objective nearby and you're given rewards. We were also shown these ornithopter pilots. These are used for fast traveling between trading posts that you've previously unlocked in a region, and it's going to be a way to access one of the 2 game's major cities. And you're also going to tend to see other players here as well because there's going to be people concentrating in this area to pick up contracts, to trade with NPCs, or to go to those ornithopter pilots. Now, at the same time that they arrived at this trading...
This has so much potential, and one of the key things to remember about this Dune game is the fact that it's actually made by a guy who likes Dune. Yes, this is not a Hollywood. We're gonna hire you if you have not read the source material and not gonna ignore it. No. This is the opposite. This is someone who is trying to make things faithful to the Dune universe, which is amazing because the Dune universe is really cool with stuff. Okay? It's gonna be great.
Post, one of those dynamic sandstorms were rolling in, and this was really cool because you could see it coming in from the distance, and then as it approached, the doors to the trading post actually started slowly physically closing in order to protect the players inside from the bypassing storm, because if you are stuck out in the storm, it is going to kill you. So it's something you actually have to physically take shelter from. Now I will note that the storm blew over fairly quickly as the doors opened again about like 1 minute later. Ever since they first revealed these storms, I thought it was a pretty neat system, and it's cool to see like the world reacting to it. The fact that
it is a neat system, because you know what I actually want in this game? I want the environment to be dangerous. And I'm just not talking about a berm or something like that. I want you to be like, okay, let's go there, but oh, if a storm comes, we're dead. So you kind of need to actually not be an idiot about things and, you know, conserve a little bit and think ahead, not just randomly run somewhere. I really want that.
Doors physically close shut to protect you inside, or if you have your own base set up, those bases are shielded, so being inside those will protect you from the storm as well. Or you can even like enter cave systems or subterranean layers. That will be other ways for you to get out of a storm so you don't die as a result. So once the storm passed, they then left the trading post and walked to the player's base, which was right nearby. And in here we see various crafting and refining stations, along with some item storage containers and some decorations all about.
If Rust was a success, this is also going to be a success. Again, I think this is going to be huge. If no catastrophe happens, this is gonna be a very, very big hit of a game.
In here, they converted some of the blood that they'd collected into water. Again, this is part of the hydration system. You've got to stay hydrated as one of your survival mechanics. And after that was done, they then hopped onto the back of a sand bike. So the sand bike is basically going to be your first early game vehicle. It's going to be one of the first things you can craft, and it lets you quickly traverse the sands to cover larger distances that you wouldn't be able to otherwise do on foot, because the sandworm would appear and kill you before you can make it across. So the sand bike is a key component to part of like sort of the progression through the first zone of Haga Basin. So they rode the bike to a nearby NPC called Derek Sinara. This is a planetologist, and it's one of the NPCs in the game that actually unlocks additional skill trees, although I'm not sure which skill tree it unlocks. Maybe there's a planetology skill tree, I don't know. But basically this plays into the class system.
Yeah, there are classes in this game, and one of them is a mentat, which when this first came out, I was laughing. Okay, so what the fuck are you gonna do as a mentat? You're gonna have the ability to do equations in your head? Okay.
So the way it works is when you start the game, you're going to pick a class for your character. The 4 initial options being Swordmaster, Bene Gesserit, Trooper, and Mentat. And then that chosen class is going to...
Bene Gesserit, boys! I mean, how would you not pick Bene Gesserit if you can, right?
Determine the skill tree you begin with, as well as what active skills you initially unlock. However, as you play through the game, you can unlock any and all of the additional skill trees in the game. Although you can only have 2 active skills at a time, you'll be getting passive boost in those trees, as well as just the ability to swap which active skills you want based on the things that you've unlocked. And you do that.
Oh, wait, the combat looks a lot better than last time. The last time we checked up on this was, I don't know, 2 months ago or something like that? And then the combat looked way, way worse than this, boys. So this is already an improvement. Still not perfect already, I can tell. A little bit less of a oomph, you know? But that's not hard to add. Again, whenever I talk badly about combat looking bad, it's usually easy to fix if it's just like an animation. Because it's just an animation, right? It's not like last Epoch where, you know, you need to remake baseline models and interactions.
As well as just the ability to swap which active skills you want based on the things that you've unlocked. And you do that by basically completing quest chains for NPCs like the one that they're visiting here, this planetologist Derek. So after visiting that NPC, they then jumped onto their sand bike and headed out again, crossing over this large expanse of sand. While doing so, we actually see one of those security drop ships off in the background. These are the ones that scan the surface of the planet side at night. And they mentioned here that if one of these spots you with their massive lights, it's actually going to temporarily stun you if you get spotted, and then they send in these mercenary troops to attack you. So I didn't realize in the past that it's actually
I did not know it stuns you.
Form of CC as well if you get spotted by one of those lights. So that was just a neat additional detail. They continue to drive on the sands until eventually a worm emerges. Now this is going to happen anytime you spend too much time in these open sandy areas.
God, it looks so good though.
There's a vibration meter that tells you how much of a disturbance you've made. If you make enough, eventually the worm is going to emerge and start chasing you.
I honestly don't think you should have a meter or something like that. I think I think a lot of these games are better. I mean, this game is supposed to put a pretty big emphasis on the harshness of the world, survival, and things like that, right? So, I don't know. I kind of like it when you don't have these things. I kind of like it a little bit more because it just makes it a little bit more immersive. Like, you need to learn to manage these things. It's not given to you. Learning to managing things is a great reward. I like it. I like being rewarded when I do something good. Not just being given it like, I don't know, this is the apple of fucking 4, you know?
And when they arrive, you have to get off the sands, because if they chase you and catch up to you, they will kill you. What you have to do is just look for any of these nearby rocky formations. Basically, if you see rocks, head to the rocks, because the worms can't go to that rocky ground. They can only move amongst the actual soft sand. So they drive for a little while longer until they eventually arrive at one of the major points of interest within Haga Basin, called the Western Vermilius Gap. Now, after getting off the bike, we actually see the player swap out their skills. They exchange the Shiga wire cable, like the grapple hook, for the compel ability, which pulls distant targeted enemies towards you. And then they swap out their charge sprint ability for Sentinel, which is just a turret you place in the ground that does ranged attacks. After this point, the player
Who wants... You know what? This is really cool. And you know what I really want when it comes to games like this? And probably a lot of you also want that. Like, this type of gameplay, but it's World of Warcraft's leveling kind and whatnot, but slower, you know, not that, you know, classic leveling. But getting maximum level is like literally a month of your time on average, or 2 months, depending on the player. I want that. I want that type of gameplay with skills, with shit and items, but in a Dune setting. I think that would be amazing. Where you make your own thing, but the gameplay and leveling is like World of Warcraft Classic. I think that would be amazing. I think that would be a huge seller.
Begins scouting out the enemy camp, and here the hosts discuss the fact that they're going to be different camps that have different themes as well as visuals based on the faction of NPCs that inhabit that area. Now, I believe this particular point of interest that they've arrived at is a scavenger base, although I'm not certain. And then finally, after this, we get a look at some combat. The player approaches the enemy base, engages with some enemies using their 2 new abilities, the ranged pull as well as the turret, shooting and doing some melee attacks. And hey, you know what? Combat still looks rough. There's no denying that.
This is 100 trillion times better than what we saw like 2 months ago. This is already I'm fine with this, honestly. It doesn't look the best, but it does not look the worst. I'm fine with this.
The animations are,
you know, make the blood splatting a little bit better, but keep the blood splatting, obviously.
Quite stiff here. It doesn't really look like it's much improved since the last time we saw it. As I've mentioned in the past, though, stiff and janky animations are pretty par for the course in most every survival game I've ever played, and it hasn't stopped me in the past from enjoying this genre. In fact, survival is one of my favorite genres next to MMOs, in spite of its shortcomings. But yeah, I mean, I can't deny the combat here doesn't look great, that is for sure. I'm hoping it's still fun to play, as I have had loads of fun playing other survival games with janky combat, so I'm hoping that...
So, one of the things in Dune is that everyone has these vibro shields, and you can't really shoot anyone with them because it doesn't work. It stops anything that moves fast, so you need to like kill them slowly and whatnot. So that is a little thing. But in this game, obviously, the shields just work like shields, it looks like.
That's the case here as well. In fact, they do directly address the look of combat, saying that they will talk about it more in the future, but they're not doing it here in this stream. They're going to have a separate stream entirely focused on combat. So that means, I presume, that they are at least aware of it and planning to make some improvements. However further that takes it from its current iteration, I don't know, but it doesn't really look great at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, so this is something I talk about. I never have heard anyone else talk about, but my big first impression, make or break for any game almost, where you can see your character, is baseline animations. If running looks awkward and bad, the game's gonna flop. And in my experience, I have been always right on the money. You know, every game that has succeeded, you have basic animations like running, attacking, that look decent. You know? Maybe they don't look perfect, maybe they feel a little bit janky, but they feel good. And I'm talking about old school RuneScape. It's just the basic attack, but you're like, yeah, that seems fine. It's nothing special, but I don't feel bad when I see it, you know? And Dune no longer looks bad. Previously, it looked bad. Now it's acceptable. This is a big thing that I said about Ashes of Creation. That if Ashes of Creation launches where people run like this and you know, hold a giant hammer in one hand and this is all that they do while running, that's gay and stupid. The game is gonna flop. It didn't launch like that, and that is a big thing about Last Epoch that I have said. I have said so many people quit Last Epoch because the initial experience is great, but the initial animations are not great. Like, you're playing an Necromancer, your first spell, blood rip, is like, and a little bit of blood squirts out of your enemy, you barely see it. And you need to do that like 5 times to kill a basic enemy. That's horrible. I always said that Last Epoch has suffered tremendously from that, and I think World of Warcraft had won extremely big. Because World of Warcraft's animations are nothing special, but they feel good. They feel okay.
That aside, I gotta say though, this clearing enemy camps is one of my favorite things in these kinds of games. I just love it. Going in, killing all the enemies, opening the chest, collecting the treasures inside. This looks fun to me, especially in this massive open world with other players running around and you being able to do this stuff with your friends. It looks great. I can't wait to do it. The look of the combat aside. They also mention here that there's a lot of hidden areas all throughout the game, and we actually see an example of one of these with the player smashing through this barrier and revealing on the other side a cave with enemies and loot inside. Love it. Love to see it. Hope there's lots of this. Upon exiting the cave, the player does some harvesting. Now, we've seen this quite a bit in the past, but TLDR is you use a scanner and it reveals a weak points along the object, which you then have to physically trace the line. Well, you don't have to, but doing so gives you bonus resources, so it's highly encouraged, basically. And then just around the corner from this area,
one of the worst thing about survival games for a very, very long time was repetitive resource gathering. Go to a tree, chop it down, that's it. Go and mine something. Unless the animation and the sound effect is really good. Like, for example, New Earth. New Earth is a New World, I'm sorry, New World. New World is a complete shit tier game, but it does have the most absolute orgasmic collecting animations and sounds I have seen in pretty much any game, honestly. Especially mining. I mean, I could just sit there hours watching the mining animation happen, the little round bar going up, and the sound. God, I fucking love that. And for survival games, that was a big letdown because none of them had. They just had basic chop, and then they added these mini games. You know, you wanna fill a tree? Well, there's an X mod kit. Hit that, and you get more resources and chop it faster. Modern survival games without mini games and resource gathering are gonna fucking fail.
The player then enters one of their other bases, so it's interesting to note that you can actually have multiple bases apparently in the game. This one was much more elaborate, multi-leveled, with a ton of different stations and decorations inside. It's here we see the player bugging out as they try to climb this ladder. I expect we're going to see lots of similar things in this game. Again, kind of par for the course for survival games. So yeah, I'm expecting to see some buggy, janky animations, getting stuck on terrain and stuff like that. It's gonna happen. After walking through the base a bit, they then hop into an ornithopter, which is a major vehicle and like a milestone moment in this game. This is what you need to actually get into the end game, which is the deep desert region. Now, from what I understand, crafting your first ornithopter is going to take a while, upwards of 50+ hours before you progress far enough and have the resources in order to make one. But also they are
now that is good. Telling me that this game has a minimum life expectancy of 20 hours, that makes me wet.
Multiplayer vehicles with a lot of capacity. So if one person in your friend groups makes an ornithopter, you all can make use of it essentially, either to get around in Haga Basin or to leave Haga Basin to head towards the end game. So they fly around in the ornithopter for a while. They fly over this hole in the ground, which they said is one of the desert testing station locations. Now these desert testing stations are basically Dune Awakening's version of dungeons, akin to things like the shelters in Fallout or the dungeons in Skyrim, like enemy strongholds, but underground, filled with a ton of enemies and a lot more visual variety as well, as these testing stations have a lot of science.
They're not underground always. From the developers themselves, they wanted to add a little bit more variety than just sand, because Anakin does not like sand. It's coarse and it gets everywhere, as we all know. So they decided, hey, we need to add dungeons where we can add water, plants, whatever the fuck.
Science and supernatural elements, so you're going to see different plant life and different ecosystems down here. We've seen quite a few examples of this in prior gameplay videos, and this is like the major way they're adding visual variety to the game beyond the sand-swept planet surface up above. Now, I'll also point out in this section of the walkthrough, it looks like you've got full and total freedom once you are in an ornithopter. Like, we see them flying all the way up high into the skybox and landing on this massive stone structure high up in the sky. So once you have one of these, it does seem like you're going to be able to free to go pretty much anywhere you want, any fuel restrictions aside, of course. But yeah, it looks like you could just fly anywhere within the world once you have an ornithopter, which is pretty cool. Now, while they were atop the stone structure, we see a spice blow, massive spice blow pop up, and this is where players are going to go to harvest spice, which is the game's most valuable and sought after end game resource. It's supposedly used to
and you're supposed to fight about it.
Fuel high-end crafting, as well as player power progression. Also, while up here, they show us the location of one of the many secret hidden treasure chests in the world, like the ones in the caves that we saw earlier. The game is apparently going to have these sorts of treasures all over the place, and they're definitely worth looking for, as what you get inside is highly valuable. In this particular one, they find a purple unique schematic for crafting some good gear. While they're up here, they then use a survey probe. This is something that you shoot up into the air, and it basically marks any major resources, outposts, and other points of interest within your vicinity, and then they pull up the map and you can actually physically see the newly marked icons that they spotted.
Pretty cool, but this should happen faster.
From that survey probe. Now, the next bit was probably one of my favorite moments.
Also, this is going to be used. This is going to be cool in game.
In the entire stream. We got a good look at like the insane level of verticality this game apparently has. So after hovering in the air for a bit, they dove down into this massive canyon, flying deeper and deeper down through several layers, with it getting progressively darker the further down they went. Reaching the bottom, we then see all these bioluminescent plants. We see the entrances to enemy bases built into the rock walls. We see cave systems sprawling in every direction with like different light sources all over the place. It just looks so damn cool, both visually.
I mean, they have so much to do here. This is also something that's going to be massively cool because, I mean, yes, everyone can literally hover with their shields. So, verticality is not really an issue. Everyone has a grapple hook or a version of that, and everyone can hover. So, not using verticality in this sense is like, why would you not? It's such a good thing.
but also just from the perspective of exploration. Like, I can imagine coming here on foot and then traversing down with how big this thing is, fighting enemies in between and searching for chests and finding different resources. Like, the whole thing seems like it could be a ton of fun and just add some interesting immersion and exploration stuff. Like, I love this stuff. I think this looks awesome. After spending a little time in the canyon, they then leave and fly to a nearby shipwreck. And this is, as it sounds, the remains of a large crashed ship. They are similar to things like enemy strongholds in that you're going to have to fight back groups of PvE enemies, clearing the area and then collecting any loot that you find. But also, they told us that every shipwreck in the game is a PvP area as well. So other players who are here can freely attack you. Now, this is going to be a trade-off for the fact that these areas have highly valuable loot found within them. And personally, I'm a big fan of these sort of mechanics and these kinds of spaces in MMOs, having these particular zones or points of interest that are PvP flagged within a vicinity. I just think it adds an extra layer of tension to exploring this and just to the entire world that I really enjoy. So can't wait to experience this. They also mentioned here as well that the different points of interest in the game, beyond dropping just from like a basic loot table, each specific area will also drop items for particular parts of progression. So for example, shipwrecks like this one will be dropping items tailored towards weapon crafting at higher rates. Whereas testing stations, those dungeons we mentioned earlier, those are more likely to drop vehicle components at higher rates. Now, they added that if you don't want to do any particular
okay, good. I did not know this. Targeted farming is always good.
Types of content. So for example, like if you don't want to go to shipwrecks because you hate the fact that there could be PvP there, you are still able to trade for those components that you might be after with other players, as the game does have a marketplace or this auction house that you can freely trade with others, exchanging currency for whatever items you're looking for. Now, while at the shipwreck, the player comes across much harder enemies, these being from the Slaver faction. They use a lot more range weaponry than some of the other factions, as well as tossing these grenades that lock you in place, making you, exposing you to their fire, basically. It's here that he fights a couple of heavies as well, which are basically like elites in the game. They've got more health and deal more damage than the normal variants. These particular ones wielding this LMG type weapon, and they also have this AoE pushback that stuns players if they get too close. After clearing a few enemies and collecting some loot, they then jump back in the Ornithopter and leave Haga Basin, heading into the...
Okay, listen. One thing that they're not gonna keep about this game when it launches is stuns from enemies, okay? No one wants to fucking deal with stuns in games from NPCs. No one. It is just bad gameplay design. Well, it's not necessarily bad, but it is annoying. Everyone's gonna get annoyed. Everyone's gonna hate that.
Overland map, and this is the first time we actually see that transition as to how it works. You basically fly towards the edge of the map, the barrier, the exterior of Haga Basin, and you just load into this top-down overhead map. And this is how you head to the other, quote, maps or the other zones that are in the game. So as of now, there are 4 of these. It's Haga Basin, which is the starting area that's said to be roughly 80 to 100 hours worth of content, apparently.
Nice.
After that, the second actual playable zone is the Deep Desert, which is much larger than Haga Basin, about 9 times its size. This is where the endgame PvP and spice harvesting happens. And then finally, there are the major cities for the game's 2 main factions. This is Harko City and Arakin City, and this is where you engage with the faction system, as well as having trade NPCs, seeing other players, having the auction house, etc. Now, they're going to be adding more maps or zones in the future, but those 4, the Haga Basin, the Deep Desert, and the two faction cities, those are the 4 that the game is going to be launching with. They then fly to Harko Village and give us a little sneak peek for about a minute before ending the live gameplay preview section of the stream. Now, after this, they moved into talking about the game's music and audio. This was like 15 or 20 minutes.
I'm sure it's gonna be good. The biggest problem so far, though, that's what I'm interested in.
Next, they went into discussion of the game's business model and post-launch plans, and there's something I want to talk about here.
Oh,
so
no.
the bullet point info is that the game isn't launching in early...
Oh, no! Standard edition, base game, Terrarium of... Sunset Die Global... What the fuck is this? Deluxe edition. Oh no! Can't start play. Oh no! Season pass. Oh no! Sara the card. Botor armor. Botor. Is it called Bot? Okay. An Ultra Edition. Calendar Palace building set. Dune film still suit. Oh, okay, that's cool. Digital art book, lol. Digital soundtrack, lol. Blue Dash Ornithopter watch. Oh, this is probably just how they call the skins. Dust Crater okay.
Early access. I've seen
Bro, this is so sad.
a lot of confusion about this. I think that's why they brought it up, because it seems like people were confused. It's a full-on release, not an early access release. They said there's going to be no monthly subscription. It's just $1 price up front. They are planning to have regular free updates that include new content, areas, features, and quality of life improvements. And they will also be selling, quote, optional DLCs, although they gave exactly zero clarity as to exactly what will be included in those. We'll have to wait and see. If I were to guess, it's going to be similar to what they do in their prior survival game, Conan Exiles. I would expect pretty much exactly what they do there. They're going to be selling seasonal passes. This is going to be specifically giving you access to several of the DLCs at a single purchase price, or you can pay for these DLCs as standalone one-off purchases. Now, one big thing though is some of the editions of the game that they're selling are going to include a 5-day head start beginning on May the 15th. Now, of this, Joel said, sure, this allows people to get in the game early, but it also helps us to make sure we can balance the server load as people come into the game for launch for the
bullshit. That's just a lot of extra money.
Best possible experience. And players who want the fresh start experience will be able to play on new servers, which will launch when the game launches on the 20th of May. And while I appreciate him saying this, what this obviously neglects, though, discussing is the entire end game and the deep desert, which isn't separate. This is where all the late game progression happens, and this is where the large scale PvP is going to take place. And from what they have said on several occasions, this is a single server for all intents and purposes. It is one massive play space that everybody shares. There is no phasing, there is no picking from a list of different server instances, nothing.
Wait, what?
If 100, if 200 players all decide to go and stand on one particular specific location in the deep desert, all of those players...
Yeah, no, this is a lie. This must be a lie. This never happened. Because, no one does this.
Will always see each other no matter what version of Haga Basin they were in before they went to the deep desert, because the Haga Basin and the deep desert are separate things. Haga Basin is instance with player limits of around 40 people, but the deep desert is one massive shared space that every single person who travels from whatever version of Haga Basin that they were in, they're all going to the same area. So what this means is that there are no separate servers for deep desert. Even if you're starting on the real launch date, the non-early access launch date, you're going to have maybe your different iteration of Haga Basin, but when you reach the deep desert, you're going to be playing with the people who had the head start. So when they talk about people joining launch day servers, that only applies to the beginning of the game, the first half of the game, the Haga Basin. That zone, yes, it does have its separate instance.
This was old gameplay footage.
But when people eventually leave Haga Basin, when they make their ornithopter,
that's not too much of an appealing guess, I would say.
And they head out into the deep desert, everyone's going to the same play space. So that said, players who get a 5-day head start are going to have a huge advantage in the fact that they're going to be reaching the deep desert quicker, they're going to be gearing up faster, they're going to be getting to higher levels, and they're going to be getting those end game vehicles, which all gives them power for fighting over harvesting spice, which is what everyone else is going to be competing over. We're going to be competing in the same region over the same spice blows, and that spice is like that's the ultimate end game currency that everyone's going to be fighting for. Spice is what you are after, and it plays directly into character power progression, which means that the players who start 5 days later and they eventually reach the deep desert, they're going to be at a big disadvantage. They're going to be way behind, and that could be a total mess. That is unless everything that they've said before isn't true and there are separate servers for the deep desert.
I think it's going to happen. There's no way. No one keeps these promises. They just say this to sound fancy, but then someone tests it and finds out, oh, that's a lie. That's typically what happens. In any case, I am excited. And that was Force Gaming 10 out of 10. Bye! Can I do out?
$800 with all the discounts. Yes. And so you keep in mind, like, so whenever I see a game like that, I immediately think to myself, well, I don't want to buy this. Like, I don't want to get into this. This is too much. How many of you guys have been like that with a game? It's like the moment that you see, like, okay, it's like, oh my God, now I have to think about this. It's too much. Yeah.
If I'm going to release new content for Heartbound, I'm just going to patch it into the game, like I always have. No reason not to. What are your thoughts on expansions then for games? I only like expansions for live service games a lot of the times.
And one developer that did that was Capcom. Capcom patched a ton of new stuff into Monster Hunter Iceborne after the fact with no extra cost. They do have the game monetized in a few silly ways, but overall it's not pay to win or anything like that. So there are developers that do this. And Elden Ring did it as well with the Coliseum update.
Like, I really only like expansions for live service games. I don't like expansions a lot of the time outside of that. I think they're kind of gross. Like, if you're doing a single player game, the only time I'd say an expansion makes sense is like if you're adding another campaign to it. Live service game does make sense for expansions because that ends up being kind of a good deal. But yeah.
I think that expansions are okay. I think the problem is when... I think that, again, it all goes back to the value proposition. Like, if the value proposition is bad and people don't like what they're getting out of the game, then they're going to be pissed. I don't think anybody was complaining about the DLC for Elden Ring or Witcher 3, but they would complain about DLC that's like super bare bones. So yeah, it's all about the value that people see in it.
It's pretty rare that single-player games get expansions that make sense. It's pretty rare. What about the infamous Oblivion Horse Armor DLC? I think it's ass, like, obviously. Not a fan of that. Risk of Rain? Risk of Rain wasn't an expansion. That was a totally new game. Risk of Rain to Risk of Rain 2 is a completely different video game. That's fine. What about Vampire Survivors? I actually don't like Vampire Survivors. I didn't like the fact that they went from a $3 game and then sold millions of copies and then made it $5. Like, why? Why did they do that? There's no reason for that shit. Makes no sense. Bro gets mad from $2 game to $5 game? Yeah. Do you know why? Because there's no reason for that. If you have a $3 game and it sells millions of copies, and then you change that price to $5, you have a small team that has more money than they'll ever need, and you've changed the price to $5 after it becomes popular. If I took my game that was $10 and I made it $12 after it became popular, would you feel good about that? You'd hate it. Just like I do. It's like, because there's no reason for it. The only time that
I think that it's okay for people to make money and try to do that. It's fine if they want to do that, as long as the game provides a good value. And I think that's the decision that everybody has to make. And it's the same as, like, also, if you're making a $3 game or a $5 game, I don't really think it's like that big of a deal. And if the price of something goes up slightly, I think that's reasonable, especially for the for inflation, for sure. Yeah, it's not a big deal. But if you're selling the same game for that much time and you're adding new content into it, I don't know. That's okay. Yeah, exactly. Not for fast food. Oh yeah, sometimes.
you ever have to change prices is when there's dramatic shifts in the valuation of individual currencies. Currency exchange rates is the only time we have to raise prices, because sometimes currency exchange rates go crazy, which is exactly what happened with Argentina, right? Like, that sucks. There's nothing we can do about it at that point.
It's crazy how many gold farmers now are from South America. I saw that in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. There's actually even Burning, maybe it was Burning Crusade. You've got what it's like to be poor. I think that if you can't afford a $3 or a $5 game, and that's a big problem for you, that's the least problem in your life. Realistically. Like, if you're actually getting mad about the price difference to that, like, let's be honest here, okay? What are you doing?
Like, suddenly, like, a currency just inflates to and is not worth anything anymore. Like, we have to take action. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
That's the only time that I think that's appropriate. That's the only time, and it's a global finance issue. Yeah, global finances go wacky. Bingo. Price your game in line with the gold standard? No, that's not really how that works. The way that you have to price your game, no matter what, man, is based on people's expendable income. You're making an entertainment piece. That's what that is. It's an entertainment piece. People don't need to buy your...
I think that's the problem. The problem is that they're pricing it based off of what people can spend. That's why you have gacha games. It is insane.
Game. They don't have to. So you have to price it based on people's expendable income inside of that area. Disposable income is what you're targeting. What about board member bonuses? Gross. Yeah, it's gross. No, you don't have to buy it. I price ours based on a Big Mac. It's about a Big Mac and a half. Yeah. You want people to buy... What is this? You want people to buy your product? Make it affordable. Bingo. Yes. Make it affordable for each region, too. Always make it affordable for each region. You have to think about what the economics are of each region that you're selling the game in, and you have to think about specifically...
It's actually crazy. I remember whenever I first learned about this was in, like, I think Mists of Pandaria, and I don't remember what year it is. You know, in general, I basically base things off of what WoW expansion it was in whenever I learned something or knew something or something happened. I remember in Mists of Pandaria, I learned about how much different the pricing was in, like, South America, and it was nuts, man. Holy fucking shit. It was over, like, it's like $100 at that point just to buy WoW comparatively. It was insane. Kind of hate that prices are so different. Yeah, and that's whenever I think that it might not have been then, but that's whenever I became aware that Blizzard changed their prices massively in those other places.
How much disposable income people in that region have? Yeah, regional pricing. Always regional pricing. Always. And then you price it appropriately based on that. It's very easy. It just takes a little bit of effort, right? Are you in favor of microtransactions in the game if the game is free? I'm in favor of microtransactions if they are cosmetic in nature and nothing else. There's no reason for it. There's no reason for anything else. Cosmetics only. How do you make the art for your game? Shame it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really... I think that's the way that most people see it. And there are games that function that way. Like League of Legends or Valorant functions that way. Like, I know that you can buy champions, and that's technically not true. But functionally, if you're playing the game regularly, you're never going to have to spend money to not have access to a tool in the game. So, yeah, I mean, cosmetics and, like, microtransactions for free-to-play games, like you can't have a free-to-play game if you don't have that, right? Unless you're making people watch ads.
Thanks all the art and animation for Harbin. I do the technical art, which is particle effects, shadows, lighting, stuff like that. Sony priced Helldivers to 0 in some reason? No, they didn't price Helldivers to 0 in some regions. They made it unpurchasable in some regions. Those are two very different things. Yeah. No, 0 would be free. Lol, same thing? No, 0 would be free.
Yeah.
They turned it... What they did was they took a selling video game and instead of...
Are people... I'm so happy to see this. What a stupid fucking thing to say. Selling it for $0 is the same thing as not selling it.
How can I be of service?
I love seeing streamers get, like, cause chatters will create like this. It's like the dumbest dichotomy that you can ever find. Like, it's like you can't even imagine that somebody could believe this. It's like, what? Like, wait, no. Like, you gotta take a step back and just realize, did somebody really fucking say this shit? I got you. Yeah. Oh my god.
Applied a 5-finger discount to everybody who wanted to go the extra mile. It's probably the greatest advertisement to piracy I've ever seen in my life. Insane to watch.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. Let me go ahead and link you guys the video. I didn't get a chance to see this one. Let me see here. Yeah, I think he's right a lot about this stuff with, like, the games being expensive. I don't think that it's a problem that games are expensive. I think the big problem is the fact that games are not providing a value that people think that they should. I think that's the big issue. Whether a game is $3 or $5, $60 or $70, I think that the real reason why people get angry about it is the fact that the game quality is bad. And the game quality, it's like the trailers come out and the game doesn't really have any the game doesn't have any sort of, like, real new interesting things. The gameplay is mediocre, and it's like, yeah, by the way, like, we have all these really cool cutscenes, but there's hardly any gameplay. So that's really the issue. $1 per enjoyment, right? There's no possible value for a $130 game for me. There's no possible value for a $130 game for me. Well, I'll tell you this, right? A lot of people that watch me have probably played WoW, right? Because I played WoW. I bet a lot of people that say that have spent over $130 collectively playing WoW.
Civilian structure complete.
Again,
How can I be of service?
it is not about the money. It's about the value proposition.
Can I do
And the value proposition is just fucked. That's all there is to it. My lifetime spend, easy over? Yeah, exactly. Of course I was. Yeah, one Valorant skin. Yeah, if it's all digital content like physical collectors, that's probably worth it. Yeah, of course. WoW's an infinite money sink if you want it to be. Yeah, it is. How much do you think GTA 6 will be? I don't... I think that if they price it at $100... The worst thing about Grand Theft Auto 6 being priced at $100, theoretically, will be that other companies start trying to do the same thing. Because I think that if they price it at $100, a lot of people will still buy it. Like, a massive amount of people will still buy it. But it's like, once they do that, and they, you know, there's like a phrase to say, break the ice, then you're going to see everybody else doing the same thing. Bethesda for sure with the next Elder Scrolls? I don't think so. I mean, I really don't. Then after like Starfield and like all the drama with Fallout and everything, I highly doubt they're going to go for a play like that. But who knows? Yeah, open the floodgates, exactly. What if they do a subscription to play GTA 6? Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. But either way, I think that something being overpriced...
You'd hate it.
Like, I think especially, this is like an especially big thing with regional pricing, that you just can't take this into consideration. But I'm talking about like in Western first world countries. The main reason why people don't want to spend money on these games and buy these expensive games is because the value is not there. And also, that's only the people on the internet. Because if you look at the top selling charts in a lot of these games, it seems like these games are selling extremely well. Even the $110 versions are selling more than the $70 ones. How the fuck does this happen? I don't even know.
Standing by. Civilian research complete. Military research complete.
Gamergate 2 EXE in a nutshell.
Can you climb into someone's personal social media?
Akalon is so based. I'm really glad to see more people posting him in different places. He used to be a WoW content creator, and he would focus a lot on like lore in the game. And then I think he started talking about like more broad topics, and I'm really glad to see him doing well.
Exotic resources have been
Can
located
you
by our
climb
teams.
into someone's personal social media and start actively attacking that person? When you celebrate layoffs at a studio,
Excuse me? Let's hear what he has to say before I reply to this little nugget.
because the game that you don't like didn't do that well, you're crossing a line into...
No, we're not. Dude, we're not. Like, bro, people are not celebrating layoffs from studios that are beloved. People aren't out here celebrating layoffs. If From Software suddenly announced that they're being laid off, gamers would be would be an uproar over it.
He's
Why
right.
the hell are you laying off?
Losers lose, is what he's trying to say. Of course, people are going to celebrate the demise of losers. How could you not celebrate the demise of losers?
A super successful studio that continues to deliver game after game after game, just banger, banger, banger. I wish people in the gaming industry would just take a step back and quickly examine the landscape that you have built. Because, Mr. Mark, you built this. We didn't. So let's quickly touch on the title for tonight's stream, shall we? Gamers didn't start this war, but we're ending it.
I love it.
Back in 2014, gamers were happy. We were playing our video games. Game developers were superstars. We're talking Blizzard at BlizzCon would walk out on stage and you would have 3,000 Blizzard fans screaming their lungs out because Mr. Mike Morhaime is stepping on stage. You would have Chris Metzen going, for the whole...
Yeah, this is another disenfranchised, disillusioned, former World of Warcraft main player. Like, I cannot relate to this enough. I really can't.
God. And people would be yelling, oh, the Alliance. People would be yelling. Game developers were superstars. You were worshipped by us gamers because you were the guys that were making the games that we love.
And people still look at guys like Miyazaki and Kojima that way. They do. And then after The Last of Us, Neil Druckmann was that kind of guy, right? A bit more of a pretentious example, but he was there. And so there are still people that do this, but it's just not the same ones.
And then
Yoshi P? Yeah.
a lady by the name of Anita Sarkeesian
Oh, God.
steps up on the plate.
The
And she starts
feminist
calling
frequency, remember
every
that?
gamer out there a racist, a homophobe,
Yeah.
a misogynist, an evil person that shouldn't be allowed to play their video games. And rightfully so, gamers go, wait, what? Racist? I don't even have time to attend KKK meetings. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm trying to kill some
There's a raid that you can't go there. You can't burn the cross.
bosses, and now suddenly I'm a misogynistic
Yeah.
racist? I don't know what's going on here. And gamers rightfully assume that the developers will just laugh this off. Will just sort of go, never
Yeah.
mind. But suddenly, gamers see Anita Sarkeesian is being invited to all of these conferences where all of these game studios are. Game studios are suddenly very, very aware of toxic masculinity in video games and setting up all these programs to get rid of the toxicity in their own.
I remember when this happened. This pissed me the fuck off, bro. And like, we just watched. Remember we watched all those trailers yesterday? It's like games used to be made for guys, and now they're made for everyone, which means that they're made for no one. They're just fucking cringe and boring now. Like it's so fucking annoying. Like I really like. Cause do you want to know the real truth? If you are making a video game, and your video game has dragons, swords, and wizards in it, we're your audience.
Systems calibrated.
It's me and him. That's it.
Our planet is under siege.
That's the real audience, right? Now, there are other people going to play the game, but you're talking about the core audience. That's us.
Video games, and Zoe Quinn is paraded by the gaming
6
industry
girls.
as this voice for reason. And funnily enough, the gamers again think, okay, well, the media must have our back. These
Yeah.
guys are gamers just like us. Oh no.
Yeah, these are
no,
advocates.
no. Gamers would wake up to find that, oh shit, the media has turned on us as well, and we're just being raked over the coals as
Yep.
everyone just worships at the throne of our Anita Sarkeesian. And then she finally admits she doesn't even play video games.
This was so... It's crazy how stupid this was. It really is. Look at this fat bearded loser complaining about DEI in video games. I'd rather be a fat bearded loser complaining about DEI in video games than be a unemployed loser that got fired from my video game job because I wanted to put DEI in it.
Military research tier.
I think he's living his best life and he's playing video games while these people are deciding between trying to find another job and then doing DoorDash.
Civilian structure complete. How?
She doesn't play video games. She admits, loud, proud, on video. This was never about video games. This was always just about society and social change.
Yeah.
But you guys don't walk back and go, oh shit, we've been had. No, you continue to grift.
Why am I so mean to delivery drivers? The reason why is because it's basically like an unskilled labor job that anybody can do. Like, and that's the reason why. I mean, like, if you do DoorDash, like, I don't really disrespect you. I'm just saying that, like, it's a huge down step, right? It is. It's low hanging fruit. So streaming, well then do it. If you think streaming's really easy and you think you can be a good streamer, then go do it. That's what I thought too. And look at me, right? So just go do it.
Continue to go. You continue to attack the gamers.
Yeah.
For the last decade, gamers have endured attack after attack after attack from you people. And then when we finally go, all right, you know what, enough. And we start clapping back. Now suddenly, before the game launches, you guys are like, yeah, fuck you, man. Go get banked. It's not for you, bitch. And then your game fails. And guess what happens? Oh, these stupid misogynistic racist gamers that don't want to play our video game. And we're just over here going, we do what you said.
Yeah, you told us that you made a game and it wasn't for us, and we believed you. And now you're mad. That's what it is. Absolutely.
Asked you, please don't do this to our game.
Right.
You said, get banned, bitch. We said, all right, well, you know, why? And you go, well, this isn't for you. Don't play it. If you don't like it, don't buy it. We do what you say. We don't buy it.
Somebody said this started because of the Cabrutus Steam group. It actually started because of the reaction to the Cabrutus Steam group. The Cabrutus Sweet Baby Detected thing would have never even blown up to 5% of what it was if the people in that company didn't try to use every form of official channel to shut him down and to get him banned and removed on everywhere. That's the real reason why it happened, because it turned him into a martyr for just being able to exercise personal choice.
And now suddenly we're the racists for not wanting to play the game that we said we don't want to play, and you said go get banked. We got get banked, and now we're still to blame for this bullshit? Mr. Mark, we didn't start the war. We were happy with our video games. We were happy to hang out in Discord channels and just play games and have fun and nerd out over the most benign bullshit. We were happy to try and come up with that one build that could one-shot things. This made us happy. We didn't want to be part of this culture war. You drag us into it every single bloody cycle. Every single time a new game launches.
Yeah, every time there's like a political or social event, video game developers try to always use that opportunity to make comments about these social events or these topics with games. And I think that average people just don't want to hear that. And I think also the big reason too, and I said this before, I've said it like 50 times, it's not that there's political messaging at the games, it's that it's unfavorable, weird political messaging that basically nobody agrees with. Like, that's really the problem. There's a Metal Gear Solid was all about politics, but it's because everybody is united in thinking, you know, a military-industrial complex is bad. Yeah, exactly. It's refreshing to hear such base. Yeah, exactly. Like, they have the data and they just ignore it. They do. But the people that are ignoring it are having their studios shut down, and they're going unemployed. And I think that, you know, again, a lot of people blame me for that, and I want to say in response, you're welcome. I'll keep doing it. If there's one of these games that I feel like is, you know, doing this kind of stuff that I don't like, and I think that it's not representative of what the population really wants, then I will make videos about it, and I will communicate that to my audience. And I will never lie to people. I never lie. I never misrepresent things. I show them for what they are. And if you're so afraid and so worried about me showing things for what they are, then maybe you should think about why that is.
Guess what? We're gonna deal with more DEI stuff. Gamers go, hey, could you please not put the DEI stuff in? Go fuck yourself. All right, we'll just leave then. What happens? The game fails. We say, haha, we told you so. You go, oh, these misogynistic racists. And we're like, dude, come on, man. We said we don't want this. You didn't want to take it out of the game.
Yeah.
Now your game is failing and you're being laid off. What do you want us to do? Of course we're celebrating it because you guys are destroying our games.
Yeah, like, I don't know about the guy at the beginning, but like I don't think he had any social media presence. But I don't know, like, maybe he used to. But a lot of these people that are trying to, like, kind of you know, sue for empathy, these are people who spent the last 4 years or 5 years or 7 years demonizing their own player base, constantly posting divisive social commentary that is a complete echo chamber of this mindset, you know, making comments about COVID, telling people that Trump was like Hitler, etc. Like, you can't be that kind of person and then expect people not to celebrate when you take an L. Like, when I get suspended or I get in trouble and then people are like, yay, I understand that completely because I represent what they disagree with. But you can't, like, it's the problem is these people live in such an echo chamber that they think disagreement is like abuse and cruelty. It's so weird. Zach raises way more people up than he puts down. Well, I do what needs to be done one way or another. I've heard from studios signing into programs created by woke agencies. They're getting wage-subsidized devs recommended to their studios. Well, I'm not sure about that. I think it probably depends. I feel like if your game is great, no amount of if you don't like it, don't play it will make it not successful.
We've lost contact with
I think that the problem is that everybody can tell the difference between, you know, having like a gay romance option in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and the Dragon Age the Veilguard. And the problem is that people try to create this like fake comparison where like nobody knows what this kind of stuff actually is. But in fact, I actually think everybody knows exactly what it is. And that's why people keep responding this way. No, they apparently cannot. Well, there's always going to be morons, but if you let yourself be defined by the dumbest people in your group, that means that you're just, you know, catering to the lowest common denominator. But the one at the start said personal social media, so you're mean to go to his personal social media and blame him? So this is what the problem is. The problem is that a lot of these people use their personal social media, and they basically operate and they speak on behalf as a professional in the space. Like, there are people that have, like, private social media, and they have their own opinions, and I don't really think it's that big of a deal. But the issue is that in a lot of these cases, people are, like, these are people who, like, they have their bio in there, and they said, I work at this company. They're posting about the video game. Like, it's not like this is some sort of, like, separate thing. Like, their existence on social media is predicated on their position in the development industry, right? Like, that's what it's built off of. So, like, I don't think this is fair to say it's their personal social media.
Notice, by the way, that none of us celebrated the failure of Dustborn. We laughed. It was funny. I guarantee you, if the developers for the studio of Dustborn, of which I don't even know their names, by the way, if they announced tomorrow that they're doing all layoffs and the company is closing, no one would give a shit. I wouldn't even make that video because no one would click, because no one would know what the hell I'm talking about. Because it has nothing to do with us. But you bait your ass. When EA announces that they're laying off the BioWare team that worked on Dragon Age the Veilguard, we're celebrating that.
Yep.
Why? Because at least...
Well, if you had a piece of shit in your house and it was making the house smell bad, wouldn't you want to get the piece of shit out of your house? And, like, once you got it out of the house, you'd be happy. Like, damn, now it doesn't smell bad anymore. Would you? Well, I mean, I'd shut the door, I tell you that.
There's a couple less people in the industry destroying the IPs that we care about.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, he's completely right about this. And I think this is absolutely 100% based rant. Absolutely 100%. And everything's sexist, racist, homophobic. Yeah, and you have to point it out to everybody. Yeah, I just think that people like this are just, you know, it's tired language. And we didn't start this, or I was going to finish it. Yeah. And I think that players now, and I think you can see this happening with games like Avowed, for example, is that Avowed is, like, you know, a pretty mediocre game, right, I would say. But a lot of the negative publicity and the negative press about the game really did affect it in a bad way. And I think that that's what's going to continue happening. And I think players are realizing that collectively we can make the perception of games and kind of hold these developers accountable for doing things that we don't like. And the way that you hold somebody like this accountable isn't by harassing them or something like that. It's simply by communicating your ideas to a broad public, and then the public will then see the ideas, and they'll be like, well, you know what? I fucking agree with that. That's true. So that's what I think is going to happen in the most cases, right? Is like, I mean, if you're worried about people showing content from your game and then making a decision based off of it, then you should be thinking about why that's the case in your game. It's like insulting your clients is a bad business strategy. Who knew? Yeah, exactly. And people will continue celebrating game layoffs. They will continue having this happen. And you can cry about it and get mad about it, but just know that if you cry about it and you get mad about it enough, you just might be in my next video.
Something destroyed. Control group created. Fleet deployment acknowledged. Where do you need me? Military structure.
Asmon's take was right. Well, of course. Asmon's take was right once again. Senator presents data that shows that white women are the ones that benefit from DEI and not black people.
I know what I believe DEI is, and I believe, truthfully, it is simply a way the left is using the minority community, the black community, to get their agenda in.
The true enemy is the Karens.
We're underway.
I've been saying it, and we're waking up.
Civilian research tier complete.
We're waking up. We're seeing it.
That's what I believe, but don't let facts get in the way of my feelings. So
here we go.
let's just look.
Here we go.
Black Enterprise magazine,
Okay.
a staple in the black community, wrote an article
All right.
noting a study where nationwide, of all chief diversity officers in corporate America,
You already fucking know. You already fucking know. What do you guys think? Is it 70% or 80%?
Our planet is under
Okay.
siege.
how many of you think are black? 4%.
Hostile forces have arrived.
That's crazy.
Where do you need me?
Damn, I thought it was gonna be like how many people were like white or something like that that were owning. Like that's what it was. I thought, yeah, that's what I thought he was gonna go with. But 4%, yeah. I would have said
4%.
10. I would have said 10.
78% white. Well, let's look at
Reporting in.
I said 70 to 80%.
The item is ready.
That's crazy, huh?
Hold steady.
Damn.
We're going in. Secure
How about that?
passengers.
the actual study that it cites.
Planets.
Right? You can come and see it by Zippa, looking at these professions. 76.1% white.
How did you know? Everybody knows it.
We've lost contact
Everybody
with
knows
one
it.
of
You
our
don't need to.
planets.
You don't need to. I don't need a graph. Everybody just knows this.
Going down.
We all know. Everybody knows. It's common sense.
76.1% white, 3.8% black. Well, let's keep going.
Wow.
In 2011,
Hostile forces have arrived.
3.78% of all chief diversity officers in the United States were black. 10 years later, in 2021, the time of this study,
We're going in.
3.78% were black.
So after 10 years, it increased it by 0.07%.
Our fleet is under attack.
Or did I hear the number wrong? Wait. It's less.
Brace for combat. Civilian structure complete.
What did he say?
Secure the
Let me go back.
passengers.
Officers in the United States, percent. 2011, 3.78%
3.78%.
of all chief diversity officers in the
3.78.
United States were black. 10 years later, in 2021, the time of this study, 3.78% were black.
Shields down, Commander. What now? Shields down. Repeat. Shields down. Reporting in, and it doesn't look good. Hope we're up to the task. Let's get there safe and sound. This is the Akan.
We had DEI policies the whole time. We didn't gain a percentage point. We didn't gain
How
a
many NBA hosts, right? No, the difference is that, like, so you're not understanding what's going on here. What he's saying is that these are topics that, like, I think generally white women push really heavily, and they use minorities to push these topics, and they are not beneficial to minorities. They're beneficial to other white women. Karens. Yes. But it's not actually beneficial. So the entire point that he's making is that this entire apparatus is not serving the goal that it is designed to serve. That's it. That's what he's saying. He's fucking right. This right here.
Times of war are upon us. Our fleet is under attack. Another structure is in the way. Where do you need
But there are more white people than other people in America, not the other races. So who is employed does make sense. Did he say gender? If you have a 10-year policy that is about selective hiring based off of race, And after the 10-year policy, based off of the selective hiring based off of race, you have achieved a difference of 0.00%. I think you can make the argument that the policy is not effective. It didn't work.
No armor! Can I do outs?
Why is woke beneficial to Karens?
Where do you need
Because they categorize themselves as oppressed groups, and then they find ways to advantage themselves at the expense of other people.
brace for combat?
Even though, like, being an upper middle class, like, female in America is probably one of the most privileged groups that has ever existed in the history of humanity.
Percentage point, but during that same time, white women gained more in that same study. How do we know?
Shields down.
Well, we can look at some other studies. Here's Forbes magazine. Who actually, this is what the title is, who benefits from diversity and inclusion efforts? Well, let's see.
Here we go.
It's cited, according to another McKinsey study, white women hold nearly 19% of all C-suite positions.
Immediate assistance. Where do you need me? How? They're through.
While racial and ethnic minority women hold only 4%. Overall, white women have benefited disproportionately from corporate DEI policies.
Reporting in. Hostile forces have arrived. Shields
Let's find
down.
some telemetry here. Give me 1 second.
What now?
Let me go ahead. I gotta pull up a graph and show you guys. You're not gonna like this. You're actually gonna like this a lot.
We've been crippled.
Give me a minute. I gotta find it.
We're going down. How can I be of service? Military
Voters'
structure
opinions. DEI
complete. The passengers.
plus 31.
Hold steady. We're going in. Our shields are down, Commander.
I'm just saying it. Nobody wants to say it. That's what it is.
Reporting in.
How does it feel to have this kind of validation? Honestly, it's upsetting.
Let's show 'em what
I never wanted to be this right.
opening fire. Steady on.
I never wanted this. This is just, it kind of just got put on me, honestly. Like, I didn't even want to, I didn't even want to be right.
We should take a
Like,
peek
let me go, sorry, it got reset. I'm an idiot. I hit the wrong thing. Let me go back, I'll find it again.
of a star base at your disposal.
Where'd it go?
Our
That's some
shields are
bullshit.
down. How can I be of service?
Where'd it go?
We've
Where'd
lost
it go?
contact with one of our planets. Reporting in.
Up? I passed it? Sorry, I'm an idiot. Go back. No, I don't think that.
Commander.
I feel like I would have seen it.
Are upon us.
I'm a fucking moron. Give me a minute. Let me just do it this way. History? No, the history won't work because I was on the base page and I didn't open up the specific term. See, they're trying to shut it down because they don't want. There it is.
I know professions. 76.1% white, 3.8% black. Well, let's keep going.
2 minute mark.
Military research complete.
We didn't gain a percentage point.
Brace for combat.
We didn't gain a percentage point, but during that same time, white women
Times of
gained more
upon us.
in that same study. How do we know? Well, we can look at some other studies. Here's Forbes magazine. Who actually, this is what the title is, who benefits from diversity and inclusion efforts? Well, let's see.
Down, Commander.
It's cited, according to another McKinsey study, white women hold nearly 19% of all C-suite positions, while racial and ethnic minority women hold only 4%. Overall, white women have benefited disproportionately from corporate DEI policies. Don't let facts get in the way of your feelings.
Oh,
Let's look at Crimson.
Our
Harvard University. When we were studying diversity, equity, and inclusion in administration and the admissions process at universities, they went and asked white students whether or not they supported DEI. Overwhelmingly, they said yes. But let's see why. White students at elite universities tend to view affirmative action favorably, most often because they believe diversity benefits them personally.
Our planet is under siege. We're falling apart here. Need immediate assistance. Hostile forces have arrived.
I haven't felt this good since I watched Tower 1's video of that Molten Core raid. Like, that's the last time I felt this good.
Additional credits required.
According to the study published in the Harvard Graduate School of Education by Professor Natasha Warrico. Warrico interviewed almost 100 white students at Harvard, Brown, and Oxford.
To be fair, small sample size, but it's okay.
It was sometimes problematic because they saw affirmative action as something to benefit themselves, the white students, rather than a policy that was about justice or racial equality or access.
That's right.
Her research also demonstrated that white students typically believe they want admission to their respective schools based on merit alone. By contrast, many white undergraduates said they believe black and Latino...
Shields down.
No.
Contact with one of our planets. How?
No.
Through our armor. How can I be?
He said Latino and not Latinx.
Secure the passengers.
How something phobic of him? Can you believe that?
Going down. Our planet
Latino students benefited from affirmative action, and that's why they were on campus.
So all the white people are there because they deserve to be there, and all the black people are there because of DEI. Even though all the white people voted for DEI because it was good for them. Yeah, okay.
Military research complete.
Of course. Duh.
All that did was reinforce racial stereotypes. Well, I'm not afraid of the truth, but about 90% of what I heard from my Democrat colleagues was untruthful as it relates to this bill. And I'll go through in minute detail. So for instance, it was alleged that this will get rid of black fraternities and black student unions. Well, that means you didn't read the bill, because in line 772, it says nothing in this section prohibits a state institution of higher education from complying with any state or federal law to provide disability services or to permit student organizations, including fraternities and sororities. That's right.
I love how, by the way, even at the highest levels of government, everybody's fucking retarded. This is what remember what I said before about how someone said, do you really think that everybody that's working in all these places is all incompetent and morons?
Military research complete.
Yep.
Can I do outs?
That's about right. It's about the size of it. Yeah.
During the text.
Pretty much.
Again, individuals said that this was going to whitewash history and our ancestors.
We're not gonna. Yeah, that's right. It's like we're gonna have this new bill, and they're gonna teach them that the South won the Civil War and that slavery was good. That's just that's what's gonna happen. That's like step one, step two.
Right? In our past, it was going to suppress free speech in the classroom. We were going to dictate what subjects we couldn't talk about.
That's right. You can't talk. If you say the word Martin Luther King, you go to in-school suspension.
I would simply say look at line 768, where it literally says nothing in this section prohibits faculty or students from classroom instruction, discussion, or debate.
Duh.
As long as the faculty member allows the student to express intellectual diversity. Equity.
That sounds really reasonable and totally fair. Yeah, it seems fine to me. What's wrong with that?
Is just a closeted way of trying to put in quotas. That's all it is. If you believe that a room full of 100 people has to have 13 black members because that's the breakdown of society and you only find 5 qualified candidates, how do you get to your 13-member quota?
Well, you take one of those 5 people and you fire them, you place them with a white woman, and then you replace all the rest of them also with white women too. Obviously.
You have to drop the standard in order to get more minorities in the room. Well, what does that do for the 5 members that got there based off their merit? What does that do for me, who has a Juris Doctorate, my wife, who has a master's degree, and has served in corporate rooms for 20 years? What does that do for me, who was already in the room? What happens is the other 87 members look at all of us as though the reason we're present is because of the DEI policies. You diminish.
And that's also from Harvard. He's talking about a study from 100 people from Brown, Harvard, and Yale. So, like, these are supposed to be the people that are smart. Like, you think about, you do a study on the 100 people that live at, you know, Springville Trailer Park, and I think that you're going to get, you know, imagine what that's going to do.
My presence there based off my merit.
Yeah.
Because you want to try to provide for a phantom land where every boardroom, every university, every classroom, every chamber should represent equally the diversity of the United States.
Well, the funny thing about what he's saying is the fact that it didn't even achieve that goal to begin with. So, like, it's not even that you're getting people in there without merit. They never even get in there to begin with. So he probably pissed. Yeah, it failed. It didn't work. And so, yeah, no, this one is so true, though. I instantly question a doctor who's non-white or Asian because of this. I mean, I'm not about that, but, like, it's crazy because I've heard that from, like, 7 different people. I have. Like, I don't think about it that way, but there's a lot of people, like, it's problematic. It is. It's very problematic. It's actually racist. That's why I don't think like that. I'm not, like, I know some people, this is disappointing. I apologize. I'm not a big racist. I'm just not. I got a lot of jokes, but they're jokes. That's it. You know, like, that's about it. And what you thought, yeah, I know. I hate to let y'all down. I'm just telling you that. Yeah, that's just it. Give me my sub back. You're not even sub, bitch. Shut the fuck up.
Need immediate assistance. Mayday, we're going down. We're going down.
And I think the reason why a lot of people like watching the videos is that I talk about the topics in a way that's, I think, fair to the topic rather than fair to a certain side. If I have people thinking that I'm a Jewish operative, and also if I have people calling me Asmon Goldstein and also calling me Asmon Nazi, I think I'm doing the right thing.